Hey everybody, in today's episode, it's myself, Nicole, and Brian. Brian comes on the show today to discuss his journey in sobriety, and let me tell you, it is rather remarkable. What you'll hear in this episode is just a lot of perseverance, getting through tough times, and Brian had to go through the things that he went through to become the person that he is today. It's a really remarkable story. It's a direct representation of what you can get when you finally surrender and you give up the fight. Brian's been through a ton. Grab a tissue box because there's some tear-jerker moments. But before we get into the episode, I do want to remind you, June 3rd, Family Reconnect is starting. So make sure you go to realrecoverytalk.com/FRC to sign up. Again, it's June 3rd, and we will see you there. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Nicole.
Hi, Tom.
And we've got Brian.
Hey, Tom.
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use. And thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us. info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. Right, peeps?
That's right.
That's it.
That was different.
That was different. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
We scheduled this about a year ago.
We did. Yeah.
Here we are.
And here we are.
It takes time.
Yeah. So, no, in all seriousness, we did talk about having you come on the show a while ago, and whatever, life happens and get busy and yada, yada, yada. But thankfully I got Nicole here. See, I got a good group of people around me that are good reminder. Like, they remind me of things. She's like, you remember Brian? I'm like, yes. Can we get him on the show? I'm like, yes. Just set it up. And we just did that with Dr. Labor, which that episode would have already come out by the time this goes out, but that was the same situation. She's like, can we get on Dr. Labor? I'm like, yes, if you can set it up.
Set it up, yeah.
You know, so good group of people surrounding me, because if it was left up to me, I'd be screwed. So Nicole, I'll let you kind of roll into this. Tell us how we made this connection, why you feel it's important to have Brian on.
So, gosh, there's so many things that are going through my mind. Well, Brian was a former client of mine years ago in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at the facility I worked at prior to Rock. And I worked with him twice at that facility, and then I worked with him after privately. And, you know, you treat a lot of people when you're doing this for a long time, but Brian was one of those people that just had a special place in my heart. His story, for one, is just very moving and inspirational. The things that you had to go through and what you did with those things, most importantly. I don't like to give credit to the trauma necessarily or the experience more than you and what you did with that experience. And I felt like Brian's story needed to be told. I think he's somebody that has really embraced the program, the 12-step program, his faith, changed his life completely. And he's just always been somebody very special to me. Even in moments like we were just talking about where he was very stubborn. He's very open about it, so he's going to tell you guys.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
But I always believed in him. I always believed in you. I just knew it. And you got out of your own way, and now you're blossoming, and it's just amazing. So I just really wanted him on the show. And I think God had a string in that, because you reached out to me after some of the stuff that he's going to get into that he went through. And I remember Ryan contacted me around the time that all this started. And I was heartbroken, but I also knew that maybe these are things that you had to go through. But I was like, please let me know how Brian is doing. Like, I want to keep like tabs, I guess, to see how you made it out of all of that. But then he reached out to me, and it's just, he's been this constant since 2017. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, Brian. The floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So like Nicole said, I came in really broken, kind of starting from less than ground zero back in 2017, having no idea what treatment was, what I was to expect, anything like that. I was coming off the loss of my first son, Joseph, who passed away from a heart condition, and I needed help. I just didn't know how to ask for it, what I was looking for, or anything like that. So went into treatment and thought then that if I could just rid myself from the drugs and alcohol, I would be okay. Not realizing that I had a lot more childhood trauma, deep-rooted issues that I never even touched or looked at.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what my mindset was then, is let me just do away from this and I'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a very big advocate for everything but program.
Mm-hmm.
I know Nicole had a really difficult time with me because for me back then, AA just was not a thing. I saw a lot of ego and just a lot of that, not realizing that that was just me. That was my ego thinking that I'm better than, or I don't need this, or, I have this. And it just was not good. And it wasn't a great way for me to live. And that caught up to me. I wasn't doing the things that I do now. And so that set me back quite a ways.
So in 2017, you would have been what, 33?
Correct.
And that was your first experience going into treatment?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it that, like, I know your son passing, but like, take us into that, maybe that last week prior going into treatment. Were you employed? Like, because you said a couple things. I think you said maybe like almost like a better than type. I don't need this.
Right.
I don't even know why I'm here.
Right.
Or yada. Well, there's things in our life. There's things that are oftentimes, we have a career, we have maybe relationships. We're functional in a way that puts that mindset on us that, like, why do I look at the people that I'm in here with? I don't need this crap.
Right.
So what was that? Where were you in your life at 33 years old to kind of instill, I don't really need this?
I was employed with Martin County Parks and Recreation. I was the finance and grants supervisor for after-school programs, summer programs, some operational things, and pretty embedded member of that community. And so that's where my mindset is, well, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really need this. I still have this. And it's embarrassing, but yet a really great lesson for me to know that where I thought I was doing quality of anything back then, just because of where I was actually not the case. I was heavy into my addiction, and I had been for years. It wasn't just my son that passed away. It wasn't that my mom overdosed. I had been down that road for a very, very long time, and working and doing all those things, thinking that, if I have this, I'm maintaining or I'm functioning. I was not functioning or doing anything of quality whatsoever. Leading up to that moment, it was every day of going to work, doing a half-assed job, coming home, locking myself in the office, and using the one thing that I had to take the pain away of my son. And it just came to a head. And then my wife at the time started making phone calls, family members reaching out to people. And then I basically had an intervention. I had some family sit down with me and say, listen, we got to talk. There's some things going on and things that we're recognizing. And I could say I felt defeated back then, but I think I was doing it more just to appease them. Right. And I was very, very emotional. I didn't want to be away from my work, my family. I didn't want any of that. I was terrified of what to expect moving forward. I loved what I did. I didn't want to lose that. And I sat down with my deputy director and my supervisor at the time, who were tremendously supportive in, my journey into recovery, gave me the time that I needed away, which I was grateful for. And then I started that, went to detox, went to Eptide and started that journey. I just still didn't think I had any issues.
So you went into treatment. How long were you in there?
Just over a year. I went through the detox process, PHP, IOP, OP, and about a week after my second son, Nick, was born, I was discharged, complete, I believe.
Yeah.
And that was that. I never did any program work. I didn't go to AA. I didn't do anything. I nothing related to that. I played softball, football, spent time with family and friends, and I used that as my program to stay away from the drugs and alcohol. It was very, very short-lived.
Mm-hmm.
So you went into treatment when in 2017?
August 8th, I believe, of 2017.
And you were there through August of 2018?
Correct.
Didn't get clean until 2021.
Right. So I relapsed a few months after I left Ebtide, and that's when I came back the second time doing IOP. Stayed a very, very brief time, and that was the time where I started to have some real issues within my marriage. Separation would happen, and everything just kind of caught up to me. So I once again went back to the one thing that I knew could take away from the pain that I was feeling.
Yeah.
You didn't have the skills yet.
No, I had zero skills.
Yeah.
That was the skill. That was the one tool I had in the box. And then that lasted for a couple of years.
So, Nicole, I want you to speak into this. You guys worked together in that year of 2017?
Mm-hmm.
The whole year. Yeah.
What was Brian's, like, if you were to give him a grade in treatment, how did he do?
Brian was really good at compliance. You know, he was good at showing up. He was good at complying, but not at the time. I don't want to grade it. It's where he was at the time, but and we were talking about this, like, he struggled to take suggestions and look inward, but I knew that was a defense mechanism for him because that's how he survived his life. So did he do well as far as checking the boxes? 100%. But that's like where it kind of stayed. Does that make sense? Like he was like, how we always say we don't want people to get straight A's in treatment. He got straight A's in treatment.
Well, that was the grade I was assuming you were going to give him.
Well, you're welcome. I read your mind.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is because on a surface level, you hear somebody go into a treatment program for a year. On a surface level, you're like, how the hell do they relapse?
Right.
I don't care if you stay in treatment for 5 years. It all depends on what you do with the time that you're in there.
Right.
And we oftentimes hear Ben say, and we all say it, we don't want people to get straight A's in treatment because people that generally are getting straight A's in treatment aren't doing the work that they would need to do. Everything's just okay. Like, hey, I'm in group today.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you want to talk about in our session? Oh, I'll talk about anything. And everything's okay. And blah, 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 blah. When, you're at that point 33, 34 years old, you have years and years and years of situations, traumas, all this stuff. But if we're not willing to talk about it and open up and work through that stuff, then you just camped out for a year.
That's all I did. I was just jogging in place. I had no willingness to do any of it.
Why?
As I mentioned before, my mindset then was, I don't need this, or, I'm better than, which is an awful way to look at things. And I'm really happy that I made that turnaround, unfortunately, a little bit later. But, that's what it was. And I didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I didn't believe in myself.
That I was going to say, and tell me if this feels right for you. It was like, denial, we believe our own brain, right? Our disease, or the disease talks to you in your own voice, right? And putting the disease aside, we all have a denial system or perspective on things because that's the perspective we learned and from childhood, from our experiences, and we believe it. And so I think for Brian, how do I put this? Like, he had so much shame, it just manifested as I'm okay. But the stubbornness was fear. And so I think at that time, like, he didn't, it was, for him to have to look at it would imply that for you, that you had to, that there was something there that made it so that you weren't the perfectionistic part of you that you wanted to be. But it wasn't embracing your humanity, is the best way I can put it at the time, because looking at it is painful. And so it was like your defense mechanism that was intact, and it's like, no, I'm good, because if I have to look behind that, what does that imply now to me?
Spot on. I mean, everything fear-based, because if I showed myself what was really underneath the many masks that I wore, my fear was of disappointing others, abandonment, that they would see this monster. And I was terrified, just terrified.
Yeah.
And I was scared to face that stuff, and I didn't want to do it.
So from 2017, you go into treatment for a year, kind of bounce in and out, right? Do the IOP. 2021, enough is enough. Let's go there.
2021 was me being physically removed from the environment in which I was in. So still working for the county, promoted in a different position, and now I have access to things like company credit cards.
Oh boy.
And now I'm feeding a heavy, roughly $1,500 to $2,000 a day habit. And I'm blowing through any savings I had. I'm selling anything that I can to where I get to a point where I have nothing left to offer anybody to obtain the funds that I need to feed this habit. So I'm not sick going through full-blown withdrawal. So I had the idea one day to swipe the card, purchase some, high-value electronics, things of that nature, and flip it so that I could get the resources that I need to feed that habit. And I was just not in a good place. Cooking the books, rewriting things so it looked legit. And it caught up to me fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Fairly quickly. Rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
Like how rapidly?
I would say from the time I first swiped that initial card, it was maybe 3 months before they came to my office and arrested me.
Well, I thought you were going to say like 3 days, but that's a while. So you were working in Martin County at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, you definitely in your head know this isn't this at some point.
Right.
I'm gonna get busted.
Yes.
For this. And I think that just shows like the power of this,
Yes.
because you're not that type of person. I mean, we don't know each other outside of the 15 minutes we've been sitting here, but I could tell you're not that type of person, but those are the depths that we will go to. I mean, because you had been at that job. You must have been there for a long time.
Yeah, years. And you're right. I mean, I was willing to go to any lengths, as they say now, but just on the other side of it.
Yeah.
The desperation that I had to do what it took to get what I needed. And you're right. Like you said, there were several moments within that 3 months where I would say I'm going to jail, because there's a process when you submit things and it has to go through an approval process. And there was a couple of times where it got kicked back. And I would say, all right, so they found out, and at that point, then it was just a matter of time, And, when they came and got me, I honestly was kind of thankful that it was the deputy who came and got me, because it was a guy that I knew, that I grew up with.
Wow.
And he came in and said, listen, we got to talk. I remember taking a deep breath in, and I said to him, what took you so long?
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, I was just done,
Mhm.
defeated, tired of waking up every day wondering, who am I going to steal from today? Who am I going to cheat? Who am I going to lie to? It's just exhausting.
Well, that's what we were talking about with Dr. Labor, too, about how the front part of the brain is, you know, who we are. It's our values, our personality, our decision-making, all those things, right, that help us function in a healthy way. So when you're in your disease, you're not in your front part of your brain. You're in survival. So it's not your values making those decisions. It's complete survival. I need this to continue to survive. That's the brain saying that, right?
Right.
And so then you're not using anymore. And then the frontal cortex comes in and it's like, what did I just do?
Mm-hmm.
This goes against everything that I am. And I think for Brian, like you were really good at presenting well. Like the masks served you. You were good at it. I think that also played a part in like maybe, I'm sure there's people that were like, no, there's no way.
There were.
Because he's a good person.
Yeah.
And he also presents really well. And that was something that protected you at one point, but it was also your downfall, because then it like didn't get people to see what was really going on until 3 months later.
Right.
I have, as you were telling that story, kind of that like deep breath, like what took you so long? When I got my DUI, I had the same type of reaction. It was a kid that I went to high school with that pulled me over and gave me my DUI. And I remember sitting in the back of the cop car. I'd never been in handcuffs before. I was just a, country kid in backwood Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Drank and a lot. And, and I remember sitting there in cuffs and thinking to myself, it's done, but I wasn't. It took another week, but I knew at that point, like, this is the beginning of the end,
It's like a relief, oddly enough.
It was. It was a relief.
It definitely is. And even then, it took some time to kind of grasp the weight of this thing. I remember I was in the interview room thinking that this is a dream. This can't be real, trying to bang the cuffs on the table just to wake up, but it was just my reality at the time. Also knowing that very, very shortly, I was about to be going through full-blown withdrawal from roughly, let's say, 700 mgs of oxy a day, right? And so it's going to be bad. It's not going to be good. And
they don't give you nothing for
No. I mean, I had to put a form in just for an Advil, which wasn't going to do anything for me, And, I just remember thinking, I got to get on the phone right now, call my uncle, have him get me out of here, because the minute I walk out, I'm going right to get what I need. And I'm sure it was really difficult for him.
He left you in there, didn't he?
I said, man, I love you so much. You're going to stay your ass in there.
Yeah.
Because you need some help. And I don't want to put you in a box next to your son.
Right.
Shit was hard. And so I had to eat that. I had to wear that. And going through just the physical withdrawal, which was awful. No sleep, RLS, all that kind of stuff. And then now I'm battling my demons, the mindset of what's to come next. Not knowing what my future held. I'm sitting on 20 counts, grand theft, all that kind of stuff, facing 165 years in prison. I'm terrified that I'll never see my son again. I've let down the very people that I've loved my entire life, and I just don't know what's to come. I talked to that man, my uncle, every day while I was in there, and at some point that shifted, and he said, listen, we're not playing around with this thing. So we're making some calls, and we're going to get you in somewhere. And that place was a neuropsychiatric addiction clinic in Port St. Lucie.
Oh, wow. That was Bob Lehman's place.
Yes, he's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So spent a couple of weeks in jail, went through withdrawal there, and then, I mean, bed to bed to bed to bed from the day I was arrested until the day I had to go start serving my time. I never once wavered for being in a facility to where I could get as much help and treatment as I possibly could. So I went to Neuro, 62 days there, and then went to Eptide, went through their PHP for roughly 4 months, and then IOP, OP, and then July 18th of 22 is when I went to the courthouse to be sentenced to serve my time.
So that would have, how long were you clean when you turned yourself in?
Almost a year. I was 12 days away from my first year.
Wow.
So I went into jail sober, working a program 100% different than that half-ass program I tried to work in 2017, and in a little bit better headspace. I had a sponsor who was never going to tell me what I wanted to hear and only what I needed to hear. And I still have him, and I love that kid.
Yeah.
He's really helped me tremendously. So I was 12 days away from a year of sobriety. My sentence was 6 months plus a year of community control plus 3.5 years of felony probation. I had to pay restitution, which my family had to assist on that. I had nothing. And it was quite a hefty job.
I mean, that's like, you've got very fortunate.
Super blessed.
Didn't you do like a 12-step group in jail too?
I did. I ended up meeting a guy who was in long-term recovery, and we just started talking one day and found out he was also in recovery, and we started meeting every night, just reading the big book, and eventually another guy would join, and then another guy would join, and we would hit the H&I meetings in there on Wednesday nights, and we would do that every week, and it grew to be about 12 guys. And
That's so cool.
Brian, the guy who came in and did H&I, said, if you want, I can help you write a letter to New York making this an official group within this setting. That way it's something that other guys who come after you can be a part of. And so we had a meeting about it the next evening, had to come up with a group name. We called it My Brother's Keeper. And we met with him that Wednesday, and he helped us get that going.
That's cool. So when you get out of jail, you walk out after 6 months and you're like, did the thought, my stomach is growling, if you can hear it, I'm starving. Did you have did the thought of getting high even cross your mind?
It didn't. Prior to me going in, I was fortunate to be, I thought well-connected then, and I'm even more well-connected now just because I don't fear asking for help anymore. But I had a decent support system back then. I had a sponsor. I was already connected with Eptide, who was bringing me on as an intern to do case management type stuff, tech type stuff. So April of 22 to July, I was learning the ins and outs of treatment, how it works, what a tech does, what case manager, things like that. And so while I was serving my time, I spoke to the clinical director and admissions coordinator several times, and they asked if I'd be willing to come on as a case manager, as they saw something in me that I didn't necessarily know at the time I saw in myself. And that's what it took for people to believe in me when I couldn't believe in myself. And so 2 days after I left, I was working for that facility.
Huh. It's crazy how it comes full circle. You know? Your uncle, where's he at with things now?
I'm sure that he is in a much better place than when this all started. And I also am sure that he struggles with his own side of things. but he has not once wavered from his support of me, of my journey. He's there for me, much like Zach, my sponsor, to tell me what I need to hear, not always what I want to hear. And I know now, as opposed to before, it's always from a place of love and help, not hurt. Because my ego would get in the way of that always. You're just here to hurt me, or you're here to, and really it's because they love me. So we have a solid foundation now. And he is supportive of me and everything that I've done since that time, and then everything that I continue to do now.
Is he local?
He is.
Yeah.
All my family's local.
You born and raised here?
I was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You don't see that very often.
I know. But
I'm
his uncle Mike was involved even in 2017 back then. He's been supportive of him. And I like this as a good topic because we talk a lot towards the families that watch this, that he supported you in a way that was healthy.
Right.
He didn't enable you. God, I can't even imagine what that must have been like for him. But he loved you so much that he was willing to do the things that were so hard, even though because he knew that was the best thing. It wasn't an enabling support. It was like a healthy support.
Yeah, he loved you from afar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, for a long time I manipulated everything to get what I wanted. And so, at some point it was that stopped, and we're going to have some really uncomfortable, healthy boundaries with you. But that doesn't mean I don't love you.
Right.
Kind of thing. And hard lesson for me to learn, but a necessary one for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't want to keep talking about your uncle, but he played a pivotal role in your life.
Vitally important. And not just during this time, but my entire life.
Like did he raise you type thing?
Yeah, pretty much. I have 5 uncles. This is my mom's side.
Okay.
My father died when I was 1, alcoholism. And my mom struggled my entire life with substances.
So this runs in your family.
Yeah, it's the running joke is, I'm sure you've heard, you shake my family tree, addicts and alcoholics fall out of it.
Budweisers and Oxys.
Yeah, and it really is. So from the time that I was young, and we're not that far apart in age. This is my Uncle Mike I'm speaking of. I think we're 11 years apart. But I have all 5 of my uncles that have been absolutely supportive in my journey. And him as well as the others have played just this vitally important role in where I've come to. So in my childhood, they had a big hand in raising me. I played a lot of sports. They were there for that, all of those things. And, my grandfather as well, who had a tremendous hand in raising me. My grandparents mainly raised me along with my uncles. So they've been there.
Yeah.
From the start.
They were like your consistency in a situation where there wasn't a lot of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you have siblings?
I do. I have a younger brother and then a younger half brother, Sean. Not blood related, but he's my brother. He's my brother's half brother.
Got it.
But we all grew up.
Were they like you?
Sean, no.
But
my other brother, yes.
Yes.
Is he like you now? Or
he's like me now.
Okay.
and
oh boy. Here we go.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I say often that he's younger than me, but I look up to him. Knowing where he's come from, what he's been through, and where he's at now is one of the most inspirational things I could ever have in my back pocket when I need to pull it, when I'm feeling less than, or like I'm not good enough, or like I can't do this. I can pull that and say, that man right there has done things and his blood runs through mine, so I am capable of these things, and he himself battled a lot of very, very similar things that I did. and fought his ass off to get where he's at now. Never once did I think that any of us, between us, would get to where we are now. And what he does now, I just can't be more proud of this kid. We went from the habit that he had himself, and I don't want to disclose too much, that's his story.
Yeah.
Working through his own shit, working through all that stuff, and now he serves our country. He just re-upped for his service time, and he decided one day, he's like, man, I think I want to join the Navy. And I'm like, but you're an alcoholic. Like, they drink. These guys are trying to be SEALs. These 18-year-old kids are trying to be SEALs.
Mm-hmm.
You're in your 30s. This conversation happened, though, when I was struggling. And so I felt more like I didn't want him to go, because then that means that he's doing something and I'm still here struggling, jogging in place.
Oof, yeah.
And I felt like he would surpass. And now, I'm just left here. He went away to Great Lakes for his training, and that was when I got arrested.
Damn.
And he was sending letters to the house, and I would respond to them, and his wife, Tatiana, my amazing sister-in-law, would send the letters from the house because we didn't want to interrupt his progress in trying to serve our country and his training up there. He didn't know anything until he graduated from Great Lakes at all.
Yeah.
But he's doing extremely well and is my best friend. I mean, that boy is just...
He's younger than you.
He is, a couple years. He just celebrated a birthday. He's a couple years younger than me.
And to watch his brother and you go through this, there's so many like synchronicities there and miracles.
Wait, you worked with his brother too? I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I know he worked with...
Not me as his main...
Right.
We can be extremely vague. He's obviously doing very well.
He's doing very good.
Well.
I knew him. Let's just put it that way. But not individually.
I'm not a therapist. I don't have a good barometer at what should or should not be brought up.
But he's doing really well, and him and I had to work through a lot of issues that we had together, between his resentments towards me for what I was doing when he was trying to get well, the things that I was doing. There was a lot there.
Yeah.
The growing up, the issues that we have with our mom. Mm-hmm. There's a lot there, and we've had to really work through a lot of those things. And I mean, I just got married January 18th of this year, and he stood right behind me, and it was just such a profound moment to just watch my amazingly beautiful wife walk down the aisle. Think about that, and then think about the man standing behind me and how far him and I have come, and to have just this man of such resilience and courage and strength, my brother, my best friend, stand behind me and support me in my journey, and like my other family, never once waver from his support of me.
Oof.
Like, I got you. We're not going to enable your continued BS. I'm here, and it's an amazing thing to know what our relationship is now to what it was. And now I get the beauty of also seeing the relationship that he has with my wife, Teresa, and that my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, has with Teresa. It's something that I've always wanted that I never had. And I could have never done it in the place that I was before.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that too, how like surrendering actually created everything you always needed and wanted. but it wasn't doing it your way. It was surrendering, and you ended up getting exactly what you were searching for the whole time.
Yeah.
And like, what a moment. I just picture you like at the front, and then your wife like walking down after everything you went through, like losing a son and a mom in the same year in treatment, and like, and your brother going through his things. And it's just, I don't have words. It's just, I feel so much in listening and seeing where you are now. It's just absolutely miraculous and beautiful. Both of you.
Yeah.
It's
pretty remarkable what happens when we're done, and surrender, I guess, is the best word.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think, Brian can agree, tell me if he agrees with this. It took God screaming pretty loud for you to finally hear.
It definitely did.
Yeah.
And not right away.
Right.
There was this lingering thing that was happening where I was still questioning myself, doubting myself of what I could do, what I was capable of. And it's just been remarkable, like you said.
Yeah.
And I have such gratitude for the people I have in my foxhole now of the support that they give me. My wife, Teresa, just a tremendous support system to have. Just to help me through my times of doubt, low self-esteem, low self-worth. She has done an amazing job of helping me grow as a man, as a person, as a father, as a husband, even in my recovery. Super supportive. Babe, I need a meeting. I'm in a place. Do it. There's no
That's it right
resentment.
there.
There's no jealousy. There's no anything like that. Knowing that, my program is very, very important to me, and that I have these things because of that, She has drawn me a lot closer to my faith and has been supportive in that journey as well. And it has been just an incredible transformation, I think, all around.
Yeah, I'd have to say so, man. I mean, it's fruits of sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, even the way he talks is different.
Yeah.
Like you're calm, and it's coming from here and not from a place of overcompensation. Like, even your voice is more, it's not as like bravado. Like, even your body language is open, and your voice is more calming from a place of center and authenticity. And just the words you use, like, I didn't feel good enough. You never would have said those things before. Like, you own that part. It's just, even in the way your perspective is different. It's a psychic change.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I could have never done those things unless I started taking the suggestion.
Yeah.
I talked a whole lot back then. Really just about nothing.
Yeah.
I was not listening. I wasn't actively listening to anything. And it took some time for me to grab hold of the idea that perhaps someone that came before me that has had some success, maybe I should look into that,
Mm-hmm.
And it took some time until eventually I just, decided to shut my mouth one day and listen a lot more and kind of take the suggestion and start doing step work, which I never did before.
Yeah.
And I finally was able to get to a point to just unleash in my fifth step with this man, all of these,
Oh my God.
just these things, and I was able to look at all these resentments that I had towards other people when I started doing step work, and then realizing that, man, that's just my shit, man.
Mm-hmm.
As I started to really unfold it and take it from here and put it on paper and really have a chance to look at it, was really the only way for me to see what my role is or was
Mm-hmm.
in those things. And then I could finally start shedding these masks that I wore, try to rid these character defects and all of these shortcomings. So it's a book that I really enjoy, if you will, just kind of keeping on the shelf so I can pull from every now and again when I'm feeling squirrely or some kind of way. I can say, the last time I felt like this, here's what I did, and the outcome was not good.
Yeah. Right.
So maybe let's learn from that,
Yeah.
and do better. And I just some ways find it comical that as much as I love Program Now and the big book and every other book that I have, Drop the Rock, 12 and 12, all of those things that have brought me to such a great place, and I was so resistant to it back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always funny. That's a very common theme, when you talk to somebody and it's like, the only regret I have is just not doing this long before I did.
Right.
Right. And it's like, I don't have that regret because I got sober at 26. So for me, it was like, I'm glad I got sober when I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Until I didn't.
Sure.
And then, but it was, yeah, I mean, you see, and you finally it would have been 36?
37 is when
37?
I got arrested. Yeah, so I'm coming up on 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's still relatively young
Yeah.
in comparison. I mean, we got some people coming in here in their 60s,
Right.
Right.
What I say to that too is like, because I get like, I remember one of our clients, I don't want to say his name, but older gentleman from Puerto Rico. He was here recently and he did maintenance. Anyway, he was in his 50s, I think, or 60s.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and he had a hard time with that. And I would look at him and say, but you're here though. And old you, and I'm going to say this to you too, all the things that you had to go through before or did is because you were doing the best with what was in your consciousness and with what you knew to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, let's celebrate not new. It's a going back to who you actually are. I don't think it's a recreation. This has been you all along. You were just able to shift through some of the things that were getting in the way of you seeing it and being it. But let's also give the other version of you some compassion because he needed that. And you today needed him then to get to where you are right now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure. I'm thankful for those moments, even the dark times, because it was only in the dark that I could have ever seen the light. And, when I think about just the not good places that I was at, I use that now as fuel for the fire. I use those moments when I'm feeling down as I never knew how resilient I was until I actually started facing those things, because everything I've ever wanted was just on the other side of fear. And the very funny thing is that I was always terrified of what would be the outcome if I faced those things.
Right.
I have never felt more free than when I own all my shit than I do now. And like I say to myself now, if I just put everything I've ever done and owned on this little table for the world to see, no one can ever say anything about me that I haven't already said about myself.
Right.
And there's for me anyway, there's just this sense of freedom that comes with taking responsibility for my part in everything that I've done. Because everything I've done, good, bad, and indifferent, has led me to where I'm at now. And responsibility, taking ownership of those things has been more of a freeing feeling. There's more freedom in that than I ever thought there would be. I didn't think there'd be any freedom in it.
Ben Bueno talks a lot about, he references 8 Mile when Eminem is in that rap battle and says all the stuff.
Oh, right.
Before the other guy,
right.
he outs himself to every like
now what are you gonna say?
Yeah. And so that's kind of what you're talking about,
Exactly.
Like there's no shame behind any of it. There's no guilt. I'm grateful. I mean, I'm not necessarily grateful for some of the things that I did, but I don't let them, it's part of who I am.
Right.
It made me who I am today. And we have to, it's like the book says, we won't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it.
Yep.
Right.
Like, it's there.
Yeah.
And we could
Right.
very easily go
Mhm.
back there. Like,
Mhm.
Brian is only one day away from
Yep.
back at gun club. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
That's
Or
it.
whatever. Have you, and I want to start landing the plane here. Have you communicated with any of your superiors when you were working for the county? Like,
Oh,
have you ever,
since?
since then, like, have you ever talked to them like, hey, just want to tell you guys, thank you for coming and arresting me? And the reason I say that is because when I was in treatment, I wrote a letter to the kid that I was in high school with that gave me my DUI.
Mm.
Like, thank you for doing that type
Right.
thing. And he
Wow,
was
Tom.
a dick. He was a total
Was
ass.
he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it was like, I don't know, he was kind of like a jock,
Yeah.
and but whatever. That was high school,
Right,
I
right.
didn't really get along with him too well. And, he was like one of those people, you put a badge in their hand and then all of a sudden it's like,
Ego. Yeah.
Sure.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't know where I haven't talked to him, and I've never talked to him. I wrote him that letter,
Yeah.
but have you had any experiences like that with them?
I did. When I went to jail to serve my time, I had just gotten into my 9th step. So I had a list in my 8th step of just a lot of people. So my sponsor's direction was to do what you did and start writing letters. And I was writing letters all day long to a few people because it was a large department, and a lot of people, I'm sure, were really hurt and pained by my actions. And I did hear from a couple of people. I have seen a few people since then. I've tried to reach out to a couple of people via text or phone. Not quite the amends that I'd like to make. And my sponsor's direction is everything I've done, I've is all I can do. And now it's kind of their time, their terms. I'd love nothing more than to speak with, especially a few of these people sincerely. They may not be ready. It may not ever happen. And that's something that I've really had to work on accepting. Via email, I have spoken to a couple of people in HR that have helped me through some things that I'm working on through school. It's been challenging for sure, especially with them, because that was a family for sure.
Yeah. So let's wrap this up. What are you doing now? You're going back to school?
Yeah. So I'm at Barry University. Been enrolled since August of 23. So I'll have my bachelor's in organizational leadership at the end of this year.
Nice.
Which I'm excited about. And then grad school after that. Still debating whether I want to go the social work route, mental health route, because I love this. I didn't know I would love what it is that I've done in treatment until I did it, until I started working with like-minded people like myself. And I could see so much of myself in the guys that are coming in. And there's been so many times where I just wish I could pull them to this side and show them how great this can be over here. And it comes with its challenges as well. So been full throttle into that for almost 2 years. And really, my wife has been an inspiration for me in that. She just graduated with her master's in social work, doing really well and wants to be a clinician. And just doing it, man, today.
Yeah, that's great.
Get up early and do some meditation, do some reading. 24-hour day book is really nice, and just try to catch some time by myself for a few minutes if I can, and just get some things done and start chipping away at things.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on, Brian. We got to wrap this up. They're doing construction here. So,
well, thank you, Tom, for having me. I really appreciate this.
Nicole, any final thoughts?
I always say I'm proud of you to people, and I feel like it's very, what's the word? It's not enough, but to really show how I feel. But just as a human, I'm just proud of you.
Thank you so much.
And I'm grateful for you.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah.
As am I.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us. info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.